In North America, Haze has lost popularity for the carry role. As we can see here, popular top player and Deadlock thought leader Deathy has Haze at the bottom of his recent tier list.
Let me preface the tier list by saying that I made this tier list with my knowledge about what's being picked right now at the top level. Depending on your skill level and depending on your MMR, these will vary for sure.
But could he be wrong? In Europe, the Eternus players rate Haze much more highly, as we can see here by comparing the pick rates in the last 2 weeks. In this video, we'll break down what the best European Haze player, Playwithme from DMS, is doing that makes Haze look insane at the pro level. Firstly, one important fact about Haze is that you have to have great mechanics first, which we should assume every top carry player has. This is because your predominant method of getting kills and picks quickly requires high levels of tracking smoothness and reactivity. And this is because, of course, Haze gets kills using the ability Fixation. This ability adds extra spirit damage for each bullet you hit, which means if you're constantly hitting your opponent, your damage will ramp up extremely quickly, rewarding you for smoothness in your tracking. If you have high level tracking skills, as Leffa does in this clip, Haze's potential for damage output is obviously still incredible. But that's not the whole story. We have to set up our fights in a way that allows us to burst people down quickly, and that's where the magic is with Haze. And there's no better player at doing this against pros than Playwithme. There are 3 main areas I want to discuss. 1. The early laning phase and why we pick duo lanes over solo lanes. 2. The build. The item build is important to maximize the potential of our playstyle. And 3. The strategy for getting kills either solo or in team fights. Haze was often placed in solo lanes, as was the natural assumption for the more farm-based carry heroes. However, on recent patches, Haze performs significantly better outside of the solo lane. Firstly, Haze is going to be in a losing matchup against the common heroes you'll find in a solo lane. Whether it's Abrams, Yamato, Infernus, Wraith, Pocket and so on, you're likely going to have a bad time. So pairing Haze with a competent laner in one of the mid lanes instead allows you to be safer and opens up more souls potentially, as you can gank into the solo lane and benefit from the 70-70 soul split, whilst also helping your teammate win that lane with pressure or by getting kills outright. This means that now, just by being in the mid lane, you're also maximizing the abilities of Haze, as Smoke Bomb and Sleep Dagger ganks are achievable. Also, as you go between the lanes, you have more options for jungling in the moments when it makes sense. The build that Playwithme uses in his most recent games revolves around maximizing damage on Fixation. This is because, as we'll see, Playwithme doesn't prioritize getting in the middle of his opponents to simply bullet dance. He instead focuses on picking off players on the extremities of fights. Also, when you're in a 1v1 ganking scenario, having Fixation maximized through the build makes it more likely you'll get the kills. A great benefit to this is it allows you to have bullet dance up more often, and it can be used as a defensive tool, but also for more specific scenarios, as opposed to being hyper-focused on landing a good ult at the sacrifice of staying alive throughout the fight. So, let's take a look at the build in more detail. Headshot Booster is our cheap damage item. Don't get too attached though, because we'll sell it later for a slot. Healing Right is nice because it gives us sustain, but also more importantly, in some cases, is mobility. We want to soak the souls from both our duo lane and our solo lane, which we'll be running between consistently, so this will help us to do so more quickly. Also, bonus is that the jungle creeps will not cancel out the heal once you are healing, so you can take down those tier 2 camps as well, and that's a nice use of Healing Right also when the option is presented. Ammo Scavenger is nice because of the plus 15% ammo, the plus 2 ammo per soul, and we're going to be soaking up all those souls, so you'll get a buff for Fixation because of the extra spirit damage too. So a very good item for this build. Extra stamina is important because when we engage, we're often going to be doing a dash jump, so that's 2 stamina bars that will be used. So having 2 left afterwards to make choices with, whether they are aggressive or defensive choices, is very important. Plus extra fire rate is cool. More fire rate as well from rapid rounds, as well as more mobility. So you can see a theme here. Extra Spirit is a very cheap item for the 10 spirit power, which will make Fixation do more damage. The first item we're going to pick up that's 1250 is going to be the Combat Barrier. Combat Barrier is extremely good because we'll be engaging on our terms. We'll be coming out of the smoke bomb, so this bullet shield should be up, plus 22% weapon damage and plus 7% fire rate. So very efficient item again for our build. Fleetfoot also really nice, and I would say better than Kinetic Dash because we get plus 30% temporary ammo. We want to create a scenario where we've positioned ourselves in such a manner that we can shoot a lot. And the more that we shoot, the more likely we are to kill our opponent. And also having plus 25% slide distance is pretty cool because, again, dash jump into our opponents, we're moving pretty quickly, and we'll be able to slide on the other end as we land, and we will be able to position off of the slide. And so that is really nice to get more distance out of it. Quicksilver Reload is really good because we're going to put this on our Sleep Dagger, and it gives you a couple options for usages. So you will either engage and Sleep Dagger straight away. Sometimes that's something you'll have to do, but most optimally, you'll come out of your smoke bomb and you'll be shooting your opponent. You'll get some stacks of fixation on them, and just as they begin to react and you're very close to them because of the dash jump into their face, you'll then be able to hit them with a Sleep Dagger, and so you can guarantee that hit because you're very close to them, and then you can reposition whilst they're slept, get further into their line of escape, and then you have more fire rate to just burst them down. Slowing Hex is another important item for ganking as we get the Spirit Lifesteal, and of course also their dashes are going to get destroyed, minus 30% dash distance. Their movement slow is also going to be very powerful for you because whenever an opponent is slowed, it's easier to have tracking smoothness and get more bullets connected, so movement slow is powerful. Swift Striker, along the theme of plus 22% fire rate and plus ammo as well. We love these items that give us fire rate and ammo for this build, all for fixation purposes. And Healbane is really nice too because you'll often be in a situation where you're going to be ganking people. You will be the one getting the kill, and that's going to heal you, but also it's going to prevent any of those squishies who you may be targeting on the backlines from being able to sustain themselves and surviving your gank. Late game, we are looking at more items that give us more movement and more fire rate. So that's why we've got Burst Fire here. Lots of fire rate buff here, potentially 42% if you connect with your opponent on top of the, what you already get off of the item. Escalating Resilience for more damage and fire rate again. Enduring Speed, we finally get ourselves some Enduring Speed to move more quickly. And then Bullet Resist Shredder. And obviously the Enduring Speed comes a bit later because we get the speed when we need it out of our items. And Smoke Bomb allows us to position without necessarily needing the speed to position first. So Bullet Resist Shredder comes online as well a little bit later to make us do more damage, and Unstoppable. So Unstoppable is pretty important because as we get towards the mid-late game, our opponents will likely have options to CC us, whether it's be through items or otherwise. And also it will allow us to actually connect some good bullet dances. And with the way that the build is going to be built out, you're going to focus on fixation first. And then you're going to be focusing on getting up bullet dance, like maxing that out second. You'll get maybe a point in smoke bomb just to get the cooldown, but otherwise you're trying to max the fixation first and then bullet dance. And we don't really care about skilling the sleep dagger until much later. It's the least priority. And then we get improved spirit armor when we can, or bullet armor, depending on, of course, what you're up against. So that's an overview of the build. Finally, the most important aspect of how Playwithme ganks and team fights is by utilizing movement well, by concealing himself with the smoke bomb, and by choosing the right time and position to fight. In 1v1 scenarios, we can see how the combination of abilities are used. By spotting our opponent and then finding a moment to dash jump out of the smoke bomb, we can get a good amount of damage on them before throwing the sleep dagger. And with Quicksilver Reload on the dagger, this then allows us a full reload, faster fire rate, and some extra time to position ourselves ahead of their escape route, so they have less chance to survive. In team scenarios, Playwithme is able to almost always create the best setup for picks. As Haze, he tends to allow his team to initiate first, surveying the battlefield to make sure he can get his opponents all on one side of him, so that he has the most information and best chance to pick off one of the squishies quickly, but safely as well. It doesn't always work out, but a tool like Smoke Bomb gives you extra time and information to make sure the play is as effective as possible, and that you have a great sense as to where all the enemies are, so you don't get surprised and can maximize your play. Playwithme also acts as a lone wolf on Haze, rarely playing with a death ball of teammates. He acts alone, farming and looking for ganking opportunities. When there's a team fight brewing, he'll use Smoke Bomb to ensure that he's able to get information and then engage after his team or the enemy team has initiated, so that there is maximum distraction to better enable Playwithme to get a pick. The key thing is timing. You have to have impact quickly, so don't wait too long, but don't go too quick either. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, support me on Patreon, and don't forget to tune into Deadlock Fight Night this Wednesday. Cheers, and see you on the next one.